Thank you very much for that kind introduction, President Herbert. And I'm going to go off script a little bit here, too, since you introduced my life's partner, Dr. Betty Neal Crutcher. I happen to be wearing Dr. Betty Neal Crutcher's robe today from her PhD. There was a mistake made, and my assistant sent her robe and not mine. She's going to be upset with me for mentioning that, but I couldn't help it. And actually, I had a dream last night that I was late to the commencement today, and that when I got here, they couldn't find my robe. So who knew, you know? At any rate, President Herbert, members of the Board of Trustees, faculty, staff, parents, and most especially members of the class of 2023, I am deeply honored to stand before you this morning. I've known President Herbert since we met at a meeting of the Council on Independent Colleges several years ago, and we engaged in some really interesting discussions, conversations, especially about the intersection of free expression and inclusion. I have the utmost respect for him and consider him a trusted colleague, and I want to thank him again for inviting me to be here. Now to you, the class of 2023. You deserve a heartfelt congratulations. You are truly remarkable and impressive. During the past few years, you have experienced the worst pandemic in 100 years, a racial reckoning the likes of which we have not experienced in 50 years, and you are living through an increasingly troubling economic situation due to a maelstrom of global and national factors, a war in Ukraine, the pandemic, and international political upheaval. And add to that the tumultuous presidential election, followed by an insurrection that threatened to overturn the will of the American people. While I am fully aware that today we want to celebrate and focus on your accomplishments, I cannot stand before you without mentioning the personal impact on some of you of these events. I know they are relatable to you and the state we are in as a society, which, in my opinion, can be perceived as a collective knee on all of our necks. A knee that is preventing us from unifying to solve the bigger problems facing us as we strive to build a sustainable society. If we don't solve these problems, we will not be able to breathe as a nation or, quite frankly, as a world. I want you to take just a moment to reflect on all that you have accomplished and overcome, and to recognize that the past few years have provided an unprecedented springboard from which to launch into this evolving world of ours. You will enter a world that has become more polarized than ever before. In his remarks, President Herbert implored you to, quote, seek out and engage in experiences with a wide range of people, even people with whom you might think that you have nothing in common. Allow me to share with you a personal story that I hope will illuminate this subject and help you as you enter into this challenging world. 25 years ago, long before I became the college president, I was hurrying to meet with the CEO of an oil company to discuss the possibility of his funding a scholarship for violin students. He was the chairman of a foundation that provided financial support for violin study. We'd never met, but I was head of the School of Music at the University of Texas at Austin, and this moment had been months in the making. We said hello, shook hands, and sat down to talk. Then he blurted it out. I had no idea you were black. I was angry. You see, this was not at all how I'd imagined our conversation beginning. What kind of racist is this man, I thought. Should I just cut the conversation short and walk away? But I had a job to do, you see. Besides, my father had always taught me that when someone says something to you that knocks you off balance, don't respond immediately. Take a deep breath. So instead, I decided to listen. The man continued to talk. He told me that he and his wife had attended the Aspen Music Festival for several years and they rarely saw any string players of color in the orchestra. He wondered aloud about the dearth of black and brown string players and lamented about this and wondered how the classical music community could do better in nurturing artists from varied backgrounds. As I listened very closely, I realized there was more to the CEO than I originally thought. Here was my opening. After all, I was there on a mission. So I talked about what the University of Texas was trying to do in that regard. I told the CEO about one student in particular, a young black woman in whom I saw enormous potential for a career in classical music. You see, the CEO and I both love the same art form. I realized, and there that we could connect. Our shared enthusiasm for classical music far surmounted my initial discomfort. And you know what? A few weeks later, the music school had its scholarship, and my student went on to earn a coveted position in the viola section of the Cleveland Orchestra. Graduates, I share this story with you because you are about to enter a deeply polarized world where any discussion around race, religion, or politics teeters on the edge of diatribe. People who are willing to step outside the comfort of their own ideological bubble, who can openly and energetically disagree without acrimony or without threat of retaliation, are now something of an endangered species. And that is disrupting the entire ecosystem of our democracy, whose very health and ability to breathe freely depends on the energetic exchange of diverse and competing ideas. You see, graduates, our American democracy is not a fully fledged adult. At best, it is an emerging adult. The good news is that all of you hold the power to drive positive change and help our country live up to its promise of e pluribus unum, out of many, one. If you embrace the notion that our democracy and the republic have not yet achieved adulthood, then I suggest that you consider how you will nurture it along the way to a more sustainable future. I would suggest that positive social change is a matter of collective consultation through dialogue. Yes, there are key moments when peaceful resistance may be necessary. I truly believe that your University of New England education has prepared you well for this task. As a result of your hard work, you are prepared not only with the knowledge and skills to succeed in today's global economy, but the combined strength of unity through adversity. You leave here today with the civic capacity, social responsibility, empathy, and the understanding needed to address the questions that our nation will need you to answer in order for our democracy to be sustained. Class of 2023, as you commence your new lives, my invitation to you is as simple as it is challenging. Resolve to resist the indignities of polarization. Draw on your UNE education and strive to be active and empathetic listeners who seek first to understand and then to be understood. Listeners committed to engaging meaningfully with diverse viewpoints, even when opposing or humiliating viewpoints knock you off balance. And you will be knocked off balance at times, just as I was. In such moments, when you find yourselves navigating a divide, I challenge you not to tear others down or to break the bridges that bind us together. Be bigger than that. Be an intellectual builder. Honor your families and those teachers here in the past who inspired you. Center your ideas, ask probing questions, listen deeply, consider building a consensus through consultation, and remember that your own experience may or may not necessarily be exactly like that of others. The purpose here is not to try to win arguments, not always to be right or to lay blame or shame. Such an approach will only perpetuate the circle of recriminations that has become all too common in our polarized society. Rather, the purpose is to strive to understand, truly understand, why individuals with different viewpoints think and believe as they do. Where is the point of agreement? In the process, Your own beliefs will be tested and refined, both better preparing you for engaged citizenship in our pluralistic society and perhaps leading to new and surprising connections, just as happened with the oil CEO and me. And the beneficiary of that consultative success, the student who went on to play in one of the world's greatest orchestras because of it. 50 years from now, our new national story must be about how we made one out of many. That is my call of action to you. I am confident that all of you are more than up to the challenge. Graduates of the class of 2023, the faculty, staff, including everyone who has supported your education here, such as the food service workers, residence hall cleaning staff, the building and ground staff, and the leadership at the University of New England, share my great pride in your accomplishments. They join me in enthusiastically welcoming your frequent return to campus. While you may not think about UNE on a daily basis, we encourage you to remain engaged in the life of this remarkable university. And we all look forward with great hope and anticipation to everything you will accomplish as you lead lives of purpose wherever you may find your purpose in the world. Congratulations and Godspeed to each of you.